And
Hey,
welcome to Lost Pinata.
the podcast where we either navigate your creative lifestyle, help you navigate your creative lifestyle, or talk about random shit.
Anything that we like. Um, Welcome to the end. I'm Terrence.
I'm Dave.
And this is going to be our last one for now, at
For the
least.
foreseeable future. So, and I'm presuming this is because I had my rant a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
Is that
well,
why?
what it presented to me was an important question that every artist should ask themselves is, why am I doing this?
That's yeah.
Because that's what you did. You said, what's the point? What are we doing? And I was like, yeah, a good question. What the hell are we doing? And
because like I kind of feel like it was an attempt. I mean, I understand like from a internet marketing standpoint, it makes sense to produce regular content, right?
yeah, yes.
And I kind of felt like that's what we've been doing,
Mhm.
but without but I guess in my mind it was sort of like without any particular direction
Right.
and without supporting anything else, you know,
Exactly.
and perhaps was maybe taking the place of time that we could be working on something that
Exactly.
was
Because
yeah.
the concept of Lost Pinata was that this was the thing that we did while we were working on the things that we were doing. So it was supposed to be kind of the, we're going to build a boat and we're going to make a podcast about building the boat, but what we're really doing is building a boat, And so the podcast wasn't the work was building the boat. And somehow the podcast became the work, and that wasn't really what we wanted.
Yeah. So what's our topic for today then? I mean, do we just want to say why we're stopping, or do we
Well,
want
I
to
just
talk
think
about endings? Do we want to talk about endings and creativity?
I think maybe that's what I wanted to talk about, was just like because to me it was like, well, that's an important thing to think of when you're doing a project is, why are you doing it? What is your plan for it? What's the purpose of it? And this is all stuff that I'm sure we'll collaborate and build something else.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's a question that we'll be asking before we do the next thing. Because this kind of, it kind of came out of, I don't know how this podcast kind of came out of tragedy. Our other podcast just stopped, and we stopped, and then we were just like, well, let's just do something. And so we were doing, and we continued to just keep going, and then we started going in all sorts of directions, and it's now at a point where, it's like, let's stop and actually figure out something to do.
Let's
and then
be
do that.
let's be well. I would like to just say that the podcast Lost Pinata did live up to its name.
Yes, it's a beautiful metaphor for what we were doing. I still love that, because the name initially came out of our
we were going to do a zine
from the pandemic, the zine that we never put.
And this was like a very physical. We were thinking about very physical media. Going back to old-fashioned zines, which were really popular back in the late '80s and '90s. Where people would just they would draw cartoons, do little poems, essays. They would throw them all into like little homemade, paper booklets, and they would hand them out to their friends at school.
Yeah.
And when I was in Portland, Oregon, briefly for a little less than a year, that they had this was like a big deal in Portland. They actually there was like one shop I went to that was devoted to zines. It was like a zine store, like a comic book store, but for zines.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I was gonna say in the DIY, like the little punk scene and hardcore scene, it was very popular going to shows, and people had zines there all the time.
Yeah.
So that was like the other place where you would get them all over. There's a really long lasting, it might even still be going, one that was, out of DC that just kept going. So it's just it was a fun project. Made some stuff for it, then we never actually threw it all together.
Well, then I think after that, the idea was we were going to talk about the creative lifestyle.
Oh, yeah,
and I was always a little uncomfortable with that because I feel like we were positioning ourselves as gurus, and I'm like,
but you are a creativity coach, so it seems
no. Let's let's talk about that.
Okay.
I was maybe looking at trying to get a coaching thing going, but the podcast was never part of that, and I don't have any coherent.
But it seemed like a good avenue of topics to discuss, because I'm working on doing more creative things, so it's like things I'm learning, things you're learning, things we're talking about. I mean, and
well, maybe I should say one of the obstacles to me being a creative coach is that I don't feel secure enough in my. Because it's like I know certain things, I know how to do certain things, but other things I'm like, wow, what the hell? And
but what's most important though is how to get things done, because that's the most. It's one thing to start. I mean, it's important to start. That is one of the primary things. But second is to finish. Because otherwise,
let's put this here. I'm going to totally discredit myself completely. I do get things done. I don't always know how to get things done, because there's a bunch of. It's almost like I do a whole bunch of projects and a small percentage of them get done. So I also know how to get a lot of stuff not done. So,
but see, I can get not done all by myself.
Oh, well, there you go.
But I could really.
You don't want to hire me as a coach to tell you how to not
really use help getting things done. So I thought this is a perfect blend.
This would be a great comedy sketch. It's sort of like a professional procrastination coach, and they come in and there's like, how can I put this off in a more effective fashion? It's like, well, first you gotta commit to multiple things, and then you can feel guilty about not doing all of them.
But you gotta really explore your options.
That's right.
Get in there.
You don't want to just commit to things you care about. You commit to things you don't care about too. And then you can focus on the things you don't care about instead of doing the stuff you care about.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But I mean, I think, and then from there, we started doing some more heroic origins, and then we started.
Which was our old podcast.
Yeah, which was our old podcast.
And we did some of that. And then we did some random, we did a lot of random topics in there too.
Right. And then we did the superhero sidebars, which used to be a interstitial piece of our old
of the heroic origins. I think made a little bit more sense there.
Yeah.
Because it's like it was, you're right. Those were like really short discussions.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think we were kind of like, but sometimes we'd get together and we just sort of record something without, we just came up with it on the spot. And I don't know that we necessarily came up with an interesting angle on it, So I don't know. I don't know.
My hope was to really like be burgeoning out and filling up my live stream. And then, so it's like, there'd be more content and more cohesiveness in the, like, if we're doing a heroic origins, and we talk about what we did in that episode of heroic origins for a brief time and made that a podcast. And then we'd also have a live stream for Las Pinata, just creating work. All of that didn't really come together. It was a grand platforming kind of idea.
Well, I think the thing is that even though it's been a casual conversational thing, it still somehow takes time.
Yes, that's the thing, is that it
takes up time.
It wasn't supposed to be the time suck that it's been.
yeah, it's and so there's a cost to doing even simple stuff, and I don't know. Well, let's talk about this. Since we're ending the Las Pinata podcast, partially because we want to focus on actually working on projects that we actually care about.
Right.
What are some projects that you've got that you're looking to do right now, Tim?
I've been working on a book series. I'm trying to really wrap up the first one. They're short stories. They're novelettes. It's a series of novelettes, I should say. Basically, I didn't commit to writing the whole novel at once, so I made it a series of novelettes, and I'm editing out the first one. I think I'm going to go with calling it The Black Bow, and it's the series that I've been working on for a little while. And so I've been writing. I've been doing a lot of writing. And then alternatively, on the live stream, I've been working on a webtoon, because I just think they're really neat, though I'm not that proficient to really have a long-term functioning webtoon. Those take a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
I totally understand the people that do just the stick figures.
Yeah.
It's like, you just coming up with the concepts for the the thing, or it's a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I've been enjoying, like, just because I enjoy drawing, and that was like, well, I can do this. I can do it as a live stream. I can do it like weekly for a couple hours, and hopefully at the end of a year, I would have a strip. Where it's like people churn out, these things so much faster. So, I mean, but at the end of the day, I'll have a little thing that I can say is mine that I made. So I expect to continue doing some form of live stream like that, just because I enjoy it. When I can do it, I'm probably there will definitely be a hiatus, and we'll probably moving to a different day, just because we won't have the podcast anymore, so nobody's being told, "Hey, this is where you find it."
Yeah. But, well, I think the live stream thing, I mean, do you find that you're when you're doing the live stream, are you getting stuff done while you're doing it?
Yes, okay. Totally. For me, literally what it is it's accountability. Because I'm just doing an art live stream. I'm not doing hey, I'm going to entertain everybody kind of live stream. I'm open to chat, and I have had a chat, and that was brief. But, the idea being that, it would be nice to just be able to like hang out with a bunch of artists. In my mind, that's what I'm doing, is I'm hanging out with people who are doing their own art, and we're all just like listening to some music, doing some art, and then like every like half hour or so be like, hey, so if somebody has something to say, like, oh hey, yeah, blah blah blah, chat a little bit just to break it up and then go back to it. I'm trying to figure out exactly how I can do that and write, because I would like to do that as well, because I like to, then I would live stream more and just be like, hey, maybe Terrence just creates shit or stuff. And that's just but some manner of like, just the accountability of saying I'm going to be on every week has been tremendous in helping me get work done. Because I know that I would have nothing done on that webcomic at all if I didn't have that. I would have plans, and I would have plans of plans, and I would have writings of what I was going to do eventually, and I might even have an outline and a story, but I wouldn't have had time to really sit and draw it all. And so what I sketch it out, and then when I do thumbnails, and then I do sketches, and I transfer those sketches into a digital format, so that then I can color them, and that's what the actual webcomic is the digital covering of my sketches, because my ultimate plan is like, I'll have originals of all my artwork, not just digital forms of it.
Well, I think that's and I swear I've never made it to that, but you should just remind me that you're doing it, and we haven't figured out if there's a way for me to actually literally join you on screen or anything.
There is, we just have never done it, so
well, anyway.
We could do that,
We could try that sometime. It's Thursday nights. Thursday nights are, they're iffy. They're not always.
My Thursday nights, and that's the other thing. Is like my Thursday nights have become a mess, because that tends to be a class night, and it tends to be a night that's like, it's like I end up getting back and only having like maybe an hour, because I still have to work in the morning. So and so.
So what day are you doing it now, or
I'm thinking I'm gonna I might move it to Wednesdays or Fridays. One of those, just because those will work better for me.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to spend every Friday night doing that.
Well, yeah, Fridays and Saturday nights are really bad for me because of music stuff, So anyway, whatever. But feel free to notify me when you're going, because then
let's try for Wednesday. Not this upcoming week, but yeah. Sure. When I get back into a schedule.
No, when you're doing it, just like if you're getting ready to do it, shoot me a text and just say, hey, I'm about to go on,
About to go live.
But it's on Twitch, is it?
It's on Twitch. It's on Twitch.
Okay. Which I don't have a Twitch account, so
that's like, and maybe I do it more than just Twitch, honestly, just because then we could use, I could just do it from how we do this. But I really want to play with Twitch. It seems like so much fun.
By the way, considering this is our last episode of this podcast, we have 2 people watching, which is double what we normally get. Feel free to send us a comment in chat.
Everybody likes to watch a train wreck, Dave. Everybody likes to watch a train wreck.
Right. Let's see. Do you have any other projects, Terrence? Or
those are my 2 primary projects. I got a million things I'm writing, and aside from that, it's just I work and do all those projects.
Well, of course, yeah. What work is, yeah.
I still do have a plan at some point this year to have music. So I've started recording things that I noodle around with, and
that'd be awesome.
I was supposed to have 4 songs at the end of this year. Like quarterly, I was supposed to make a song. That was my goal. And so, and we should still do a song, like teach me how to make a song.
Okay, well, I could say, yeah. I mean, yeah, we should do that.
But yeah, no, I had the goal, but it's like I never get time. You know, I really just need to move my wife out of my office, and then I'll be able to play with all my toys again. So, because that's what really impeded me doing anything. Because everything is in here. So
yeah. Well, let's see, what do I got going on? I guess I've got I got some shows coming up this month. I've got 4 shows now, actually. I have a showcase on Thursday at a place in Boulder called the Tandoori Grill. Then I have a house concert in Arvada on Saturday. And then on 2 more Saturdays this month, and I can't remember. I think it's the next. Yeah, I think the 2 Saturdays following this coming Saturday, I'm going to be up in the mountains at a place called Very Nice Brewing Company. They've got 2 locations. So doing some solo shows. The Arvada show is going to be a full band show. But let's see. Other than that, that's kind of regular stuff. I've been editing somebody else's podcast. Been getting paid for that. I don't know that I'm doing a great job of it, but actually that has a detrimental impact on me because it makes me not want to edit other podcasts that may be lingering. But we have a backlog of Heroic Origins podcasts that I haven't touched. And I'm even thinking about other podcasts. I've been very politically oriented this year, which is, I mean, and politically active, I should say. I mean, I've been politically aware in the past, but not always very active. And I've been very active this year. And so I've been trying to figure out a way to use art in a more active way. And I've been thinking actually lately that maybe podcasting is the way to do that. One thing I've been thinking about is maybe doing a podcast where I interview artists about how are they, how are they using their art to make political impact, or, and I want to kind of focus on things other than just fundraising, right?
Right.
Because that seems to be pretty much where art is relegated for political action there's that or very esoteric kind of stuff that doesn't necessarily have an impact. So I'm trying to figure out like what I really want to know is like is there a way to really just use art to make an impact? So yeah, I'm gonna maybe look for people. I don't know that I know anybody right now that I know some politically active artists, but it's and I know people that have politics as a focus of their art. But I don't know, who's necessarily, genuinely using that art in a way that's. I just don't know. I don't know. So anyway, I'm going to research and try to find some folks. So that's one thing I'm looking at. And then another thing was actually maybe doing a podcast that's not about art, but just about bringing. Trying to develop empathy between multiple sides. And I know this is not popular right now, but the idea of just somebody quoted me, and I'm going to paraphrase really badly, the idea that if you could bring people together and find, create empathy between them, you could solve all their problems in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And so that's the big thing is like, how do you get people to see things from their point of view?
Right.
And can you do that? And so, but now I don't know if I'm the right facilitator for that. So that scares me to do that because I'm thinking, how do you keep it from becoming just a big shouting match? But
there's a group that I'm familiar with. I shouldn't say I'm part of or no. I'm familiar with where they are they meet via Zoom specifically so that people can so they can discuss political topics, and people, if they are upset, can mute and walk away. That's their whole thing. It's like it's not a place for arguing. It's a place for discussion. And so the whole idea behind it is we're going to try to have these discussions, which are hard discussions, and have them civilly. And so I think it's like a brilliant idea, and I right now I know that they're having trouble finding, a lot of alternative viewpoints that are also thinking the same way, so that are interested in having those discussions too. So,
well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, do you have like, yeah, well,
yeah. So,
there was one, I was hosting a song circle at one point online, and a lot of musicians are very, they want to talk about politics and stuff. And my rule was kind of like, this is a song share circle, and we are not going to talk politics. But if you want to sing about politics, you're welcome to. And so the idea would be that you had to, if you were going to have that debate, in this forum, which is not a political forum, then you had to at least make it thematic with what we were doing.
What is the greatest protest song ever written, Dave?
I don't know, Spirit in the Sky. That's not really
your land.
Huh?
This land is your land.
Is that
this land is your land, this land is my land.
You don't think it's Masters of War by Bob Dylan?
I say this land is your, because it's like become this, like, this land is your land, and it's like, but it's really like, no, it's my land and it's your land. You gotta. That's how I was thinking that song. Yeah.
You commie pinko bastard. No, that's a great one. That's a great one. But I guess the question, I mean, if you want to break it down, there's one is the message, two is the song structure, and like that sort of thing. And but I don't know, simplicity works for that kind of thing. So I don't know. What's the most musically complex political song you can think of?
Oh, huh. I don't know.
Exactly. Okay, let's talk about endings. We're ending the podcast. What are some of your?
All right, so this is a tangent. So
sorry.
This is a very Pinata-y of us.
This what I'm suggesting? You mean?
No, just where we were just were.
Oh yeah.
So,
okay, we're going. That's very lost, and it's like you're banging a pinata. Yeah, don't know what's going to come out. Life's like a pinata. You get the shit kicked out of you, and you don't know what comes out. So let's talk about endings. Okay, so what are your favorite endings from creative media?
Oh God, you know what my favorite ending for a series ever is still the Voyager, Star Trek Voyager series finale. I think that tied up everything. It brought them. Well, spoiler, they got home, and it tied up everything. They ended their mission. They got back home. Everybody was safe. They defeated the bad guys. It was just this roller coaster get there thing. So, where they ended up with new technology and everything. And, so that was just really cool to see how they brought that all together. If you were a fan of the series all the way through, and, because around the end of that series, the last season or so was they got a little rough. Some of the episodes were like, they were trying to make it, but they did, that series finale,
It's tough to nail the landing. It is tough to nail the landing. I'll tell you my favorite ending, or one of my favorite endings at least, was in the last season of Battlestar Galactica, the reboot. The Galactica, they landed on what they think is Earth, and it's this nuclear devastated planet. And then that's it. The game, and it's like this was a dark dystopian series, and it ended on a dark dystopian, moment. And I was like, wow, what a way to end the show. Because the last season had been iffy, and I wasn't sure if they were going to have the guts to do it. And then you know what it turned out? That was not the last episode. And I was very, very disappointed. I was very, very disappointed. And then they did have like a last episode that had all the pandering that I was worried about, because, you had, people, there had been this prophecy that the president was going to die before they reached Earth. She didn't. And then they had, and nobody died. Nobody died. This show really should have had people dying left and right. And I mean, I hate to say it, that would have been in the spirit of the show. It would have been, and it's sort of like Game of Thrones, how, in the beginning of Game of Thrones, they were doing it right. They were like, you would get attached to somebody and they were gone.
Yeah.
And that made them more significant as characters.
Yes.
And then at the end of the series, they had become attached to the characters and nobody could die anymore,
Yeah.
And so you lost that threat to, the riskiness. And so Battlestar Galactica, they weren't quite as ruthless as Game of Thrones was.
No.
But it was definitely a dark show.
Yeah.
And it you were expecting, things to really go down, and they just didn't. They became so attached to the characters by the end that everybody, they just didn't have the proper endings for and I hate to say it, you're robbing people of heroic endings,
right.
in that situation, and I think that you're robbing people, the viewers, of being even more attached to those characters.
Right. I mean, it feels like you're setting it up so that you can keep making more.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's that. But I think it's just pandering. It's just sort of, it's just, it's, I don't know. It's, I understand, you don't want to hurt but it's also the last episode. So, it's okay to hurt your audience.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, be true to your content. Be true to
tell the story.
Yeah. Be true to the story. Not
tell the story the way that it should be going. Don't protect the characters unduly.
Yeah, like the end of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like, I liked the way it ended, but it ended so abruptly. It was the only problem. But that was one where I think they did a good job, because like at the end of it, another spoiler alert.
Sorry, I should have given a spoiler alert for Battlestar Galactica. She's been like 15, 20 years, right?
Because she's been like the Slayer this whole time, and then at the end, it's like, no, she is one of the Slayers, and it's like now there's an army. It's not just her against all the forces of darkness, and it's an army against the forces of darkness at the end, and that all these other Slayers, right?
I thought that was great. I think
and that was just like, and it kind of, it didn't. That was perfect because it didn't end. It gave her an ending to her struggles and everything. She didn't have to die at the. I don't think she died at the end. I don't remember how, but she didn't have to die. It didn't have to be like, sacrificing herself to beat the ultimate evil. But I think they closed the Hellmouth, and a bunch of like Slayers rose up, so that you had, she wasn't alone, and that was then look at the future. The future is grand, or could be grand, kind of. That to me was another great ending.
That was a great ending. It's interesting that I'm like total blanked on endings that I really loved, and it's all kind of like, what are the ones that disappointed me? Because like Lost was a little bit of a, that show Lost.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of it wasn't a bad ending. It's just, it was just kind of like any show that builds up this mystery for the whole thing. It's like, it may be impossible to really nail the landing,
I never got into Lost. I loved Fringe, but I don't remember how it ended.
Well, Fringe was kind of an updated version of the X-Files, wasn't it? That's how it felt to me with a couple episodes I watched of it.
In a way, but there was a lot of, like, the people to me said, well, you either love Lost, because they were both J.J. Abrams, I believe.
Oh, were they?
I think. And it was just that, you either love Fringe or you love Lost. And they were like, because Lost has this thing that they never show you, and then Fringe shows you everything. And so they were like opposites at the time. And I was like, oh, I guess that's just how I roll. I'm not that into Lost, because like I can't suspend my belief in like, oh, what's it going to be, and never getting an answer. Yeah. So yeah. But I don't remember how Fringe ended, but I really enjoyed that series. Yeah, I can't think of how any of the other, like, there used to be a plethora of these sci-fi little series that were on, and I don't know how.
I
don't recall specifically how most of them ended. They didn't make a big impact.
Well, we actually we're living in an era right now where they do think in terms of ending, right? Back in the old days, TV series, nobody wanted to end them until they didn't end until hey, Alex, how you doing? Welcome back.
Hello.
This is our last episode. Sort of, maybe. Uh-oh. What have you missed? You just missed we've been talking about we're doing a retrospective of our show and also talking about ending. I think why? We should go into it again.
We should start over and just be like creative differences.
That's right. I don't know. I think it's just a lack of direction for the show. And mind you, I think you've hopped on when we've been doing Heroic Origins, which is different. That's a different podcast.
Yeah.
So is that ever ending? I don't know. That one's always kind of on hiatus sometimes. But
because we can always keep doing more. Because we can always do more because they're always,
you can always do more. Yeah.
They're fun.
And okay, so actually, let's talk about what are the shows that we podcast on this channel here. Okay, so Las Pinata is a catch-all podcast where we talk about random shit. And it has gone through various versions. We sometimes pigeonhole other things into it as well. Before we did this, we had a podcast called Heroic Origins, where we would brainstorm a brand new superhero every episode, or sometimes a superhero team. Sometimes we'd flesh out a story for a character.
We do the hero, then we draw the hero, and then we make a 3-story arc or 3.
We've gone through the evolution of that. So but it started as just a simple podcast where we would make up a new superhero every episode.
Yeah, and then we did the big season finale.
We recorded a season finale. That's right, an audio.
The big audio drama that was really fun.
Yeah, it was fun, but it was also grueling.
Oh, but it was so much fun to edit.
Okay. Once I passed it off to you, because I started editing the damn thing, and it drove me. It gave me like an ulcer or something, but it was bad. So I passed off to Terrence, and he did an excellent job. And I should have passed. We should have had you doing it to begin with. And then let's see. We've also done our superhero sidebars, which are often random, topics that we come up at the last minute, and that may or may not be interesting. And but I mean, we're probably going to keep doing something. But God knows what.
Yeah, who knows what next? So.
Well, we're going on hiatus, if nothing else. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're gonna go back to planning, and we'll think of something.
But I think what we were finding was that this was an attempt to do content, but without much direction. Because from a internet marketing standpoint, you want to have regular content to draw people to whatever you're promoting. However, we haven't had something specific that we were promoting and not doing a very good job of tying it into that promotion. Right. So yeah.
We haven't been very good about finding something to promote, which was kind of supposed to be a thing we did while we figured out what we were doing. So we're going to instead go back to putting the horse before the cart again.
Yes. We're going to find a project. We're going to find a project that we both are interested in working on. And then if we get a good groove going with that, then maybe we're going to have something. We're promoting our channel, I suppose, but we're not. We don't really have I think the trouble is that you're the only person that comes genuinely, and we have not done the other things. I don't know. The channel in and of itself is not, unless it's got compelling content that I'm interested in doing, and Terrence is interested in doing. I'm not sure that it makes sense to do kind of just sort of random discussions. I don't know. It's not. It doesn't. I walk away from this oftentimes, as Terrence has heard, and I'll be going, why are we doing this?
Well, that's where, yeah. So, and I think that is the most important question to ask when you're doing anything is, why are we doing it? And do you want to keep doing it, or do you want to do something else? And I think ultimately I want to do something else. So And why?
Well, and admittedly, this is me. This probably is the result of me whining. So, so I'll take the blame. It's not Terrence, it's me. But it starts with one and here. Let's put this on and can stay with one for a long time. That's true. Yeah. So we actually have 2 people watching right now. I don't know who the second person is. Second person out there, please feel free to chime in. Yeah. So I don't know. Hey, Alex, how about this? What's a topic that you would like to hear us discuss if we were to do another episode? Because this is the thing. Yeah. If because that it's like it would be good to have an audience to ask them for topics.
Yeah.
So
actually, I'm in the same boat at work. We're looking for trying to build new shows and trying to find hosts and people who will be interested enough to basically volunteer their time to work on the back end of it to make the shows. So. And it's building finding something that people have a common ground in that want to, invest in. Because I would love to do like a science show. I'd love to do an art show, but I'm only one guy. I can't do all the shows.
Quick, okay, Terrence, quick. Explain something that you understand scientifically.
That I understand scientifically, or that I like to learn about scientifically, like I love looking into quantum stuff and astrophysics.
Just teach me something. Explain something scientifically to me.
Oh, I can't explain anything scientific. I need to study it and then come back to you on it. I don't know.
We should do a podcast called Bad Science. And what we do is we take some scientific principle and then we have, without doing research, have to explain how it works.
Well, I really I'm fascinated with the quantum, the rules around the rules, if you call it that, but the everything about the quantum world, because it's just
quantum world is pretty.
It's just crazy, and it's that's a fundamental that's what reality is built on, as far as we know. Though I also have a lot of questions about what is reality if we're if we only know 95. Well, we know less than we know 5% of the universe, right? And so that leaves a huge gap in our understanding. So why do we pretend that we know anything? Stuff like that, where it's yeah.
Well, so Alex says, here's his suggestion here. A discussion about something inanimate that you both take different views on. So, Terrence, why don't you pull something down from your wall, show it to the screen, and let's talk about it.
Which comic, anime? What do you want? You want something random? It has
to be inanimate.
Inanimate. Here.
Here we go. Wisdom from Alex here. The more you know, the less you understand. Very true.
There it is, Dave.
Okay. Well, you know what that looks like to me? You know those martial arts films where they've got the wood and they've got the wood pillar and they've got the little poles sticking out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a tree. Okay.
It's a log.
but you've got the wood pillar, but they've got the poles sticking out, and you're going and you're practicing your moves, but the poles are and just blocking your arms and stuff, right? So you're getting used to stopping and starting or whatever with your your sick martial art moves, and and so it has. But imagine you have one of those poles and you put a smiley face on it. That's what I'm imagining.
See, what I focus on, it's this weird little log, and he's got fangs.
Yes, it's a vampire log.
It's is it a vampire log? Is it is it sucking sap out of other trees?
Well, that's what is it is it blood or sap? Yeah. And is it an immortal tree, or is it or does it actually?
How do you kill a wooden vampire? Would you do you have to stake it through the heart with
well, that would be like a beef steak.
Yeah.
Which would be very tough, right? It would be very tough to take a piece of meat and plunge it through the heart of a tree.
Or would it even be through its heart? Because
oh, that's true. Yeah. What would be the heart of it? What is the heart of a tree? Is it the
What's
center
the
ring?
what's the equivalent of garlic? Like, will it still like? Do you have to have something like some sort of other animal musk or something? It's because it can't be a vegetable, right? It shouldn't be a vegetable.
Squirrel pellets. Does a tree have a heart? Here we go. Does the tree have a heart? I don't know. Trees have seeds, right?
Well, those
There's
are
like acorns and stuff.
those are like external. So
Yeah. Well, but like a flower on a flower on a flower. That sounds weird. But the flowering part of a plant.
What are those parts? Oh, when people make is it a burr? Whatever well, it's a diseased part of a tree, so I guess that probably won't be good either.
Wait, this is the part where we explain something that we don't know scientifically.
Yeah.
What's our best? Terrence,
Well,
can you define...
okay, so wait, you get into the tree's circulatory system, right? Because that's how
circle like rings. It's called the ringulatory circle.
It brings up all the water through the ground and all that, and the cells, and yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a heart's got its. Well, let's see. What makes the sap pump? If the sap is the equivalent of blood, and heart is what pumps the blood, what pumps the sap?
I literally don't know. Like, and it has to be some sort of mitochondrial thing. It's the mitochondria. They push the little sugar cells through each.
The mitochondria are little bacteria that push the sap.
Yes, that's what they are now. Yes.
Well, it's like the midi-chlorians from Star Wars or something.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, see, this is where it's not that I love going through like reference books and learning things, but I don't keep it all in my head.
You don't remember it, yeah. Well, that's why do you have to remember it if you've got a reference book?
Yeah.
They say that's true actually, because once books became a regular thing, people stopped memorizing stuff the way they used to.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, before there were books, people, they weren't literate, but they remembered stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we got here? We got here more explanations here. Primarily due to transpiration, a process where water evaporates from leaves, creating a negative pressure or suction that pulls water up the tree.
That makes sense.
But he's saying, so that cannot be a heart. Interesting. Wow, we learned something. Or Alex may have made this up. We don't know. We don't know because we're not going to look it up ourselves.
But a tree vampire would be so much more efficient than a vampire, or a tree zombie even. Because if you think about it, the entire body, the entire thing is what's the vampire, right? And now you can't just stab it in one place. You couldn't shoot it in the head because its consciousness has to be throughout the entire body.
Okay.
Its circulatory system is throughout the entire body.
So just imagine for a second you have a vampire, a regular human-derived vampire, just sort of standing there and just being like, "Whoo, I'm parched," and all of a sudden the blood from your body starts flowing out and being siphoned off to the person sitting across a room.
Why? I don't understand that part.
Because it's like the tree.
But that's not pulling it from everywhere. It's coming. It's
okay. Fine. It's a handshake. The vampire gives you a handshake and sucks all the blood out of your hand.
It would need to stand on you because the roots.
Would a tree zombie? Here's a good one. Would a tree zombie walk or roll?
I would think it would be better to walk because if it's rolling, it could break its branches. Unless it's a log. If it's a log, yeah. Then I guess if it's a zombie, it's been chopped down, right?
Well, it's you can be a dead tree without being chopped down. Yeah. How does a tree move? It would. Oh, here's a pun.
It would lumber. That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah. I love
it. Yeah. Well, I think this is the thing. If humans shamble along, they walk, but trees and flowering species, that the way they do it is they if they travel, it's through seeds floating in the air. It's like leaves and stuff, right? So they travel in the way that humans would travel, or most mammals would travel, right? Well, you got fungus. Fungus grows, right? That's how. So what would be like a zombie fungus?
Well, that takes me to the fungus that like just gets other animals to move it. Like,
did you see Dave? Dave is not impressed. Did you ever see Zoomies? It was about.
That's what we say when the dog gets all riled up. So I don't know.
Really, there is a. Well, let me explain. There is a zombie fungus.
Yeah,
right on. There was a movie called Zoomies, and what it was basically a zoo. Zoo animals were zombified.
Oh.
And so people were being chased by these zombified lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! And the big question I had was, is a zombie lion more scary than a regular lion? I kind of felt like, and what was funny was that they were actually slower. They were slower than your regular animals. So I don't know. I don't know that a zombie zoo animal is scarier than
a zombie rabbit is more scary than a regular rabbit.
When was the last time you saw a rabbit at a zoo?
Oh, okay. I guess petting zoo. I don't know. A zombie goat, a zombie zebra.
Well, okay. So if you're talking about a vegetarian animal,
right?
Then yes, I agree that the zombie version of that, if it wants brains,
I mean, a zombie giraffe.
Well, here's a question: Do vegetarians or much less vegans, when they turn to zombies, do they actually want brains, or do they want other stuff? Oh, what's this? Have you seen the Holy Grail? Yes. Rabbits can be. You're right. They can be very good.
Rabbits can be horrifying. Yeah.
Yes, you don't want to.
Run away!
Well, hey, this is you see, this is the power of audience interaction. So yeah. Well, hey, Terrence, if this is our last episode, which I have my suspicion that it's not going to be our last episode, but nevertheless, this is officially a hiatus that we're going on.
It's the end.
Hey, we've got 3 people. We've got 3 people now. We've now tripled the views as we're trying to end our podcast.
So we'll come back and we'll finish it every week.
This is like those music stars who, like they have their farewell tour.
Yeah.
And then a couple years later they have another farewell tour. Yeah, so, if we can maybe it's a sign. Yeah, if we can just there you go. The end part 2. Yeah. So yeah, come back next week when we do our second of our 12 parts goodbye series.
Yeah, 2025, the year of ending.
That's right.
That could be our new podcast, The Ending. We just do endings. That's all.
Well, maybe that's okay. We're here now. We're now announcing our new podcast, which is the Farewell Tour podcast.
Farewell Tour.
Actually, I don't know. That's like, well, I mean, I do some comedy stuff. So like, that's like totally, that actually would be a fun comedy podcast,
Yeah.
It's over, folks. We're doing our countdown to the final episode.
That's a good point too.
Oh, well, this is a good point. Yeah, it's very true. We might as well. Yeah. Well, I just released back in March, I released my first official single. And
we should play that out.
Sheer happenstance, the song was called Goodbye. And I'm like, well, that's a great one to start with, huh?
That should be our closing song. Yeah.
Well, I don't have it queued up, so anyway.
I'll put it on the edit. We'll fix that in post.
All right. So is it time to call it, Terrence? That's the
question. Yes, I think so. So thank you for joining us.
Alex, I have a feeling that something will be back at some point. but right now we're going to put a button on it here and call it a day. So, hey, Los Pinata people, keep on whacking off.
Keep on whacking those pinatas and seeing what shakes
and
out.
Beating off. I'm sorry. No, we're taking the pretext out of it, Terrence.
I don't like that.
No, you don't. Okay, sorry. Now it's time for you to whack your own pinata and see what shakes out.
Beat it.
All right, folks. Okay, take care, everybody.